The most expensive mistake I see in the $1 million plus market is not overpaying. So it's making a decision based on features instead of the longer term implications. Buyers tend to focus on finishes, sellers tend to focus on list price, and then builders focus on cost per square foot. But in Greater Indianapolis, the outcomes of these decisions are usually determined by nuance, timing, and long term positioning. These are factors that are less visible, but they're far more expensive to ignore. In the multi-million dollar range, residential real estate stops behaving like a commodity and it starts behaving like a strategic asset. When you're looking at areas like Zionsville, Washington Township, Carmel, Fishers, Westfield, and downtown Indianapolis, small differences in location, design decisions, or timing can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars in long-term impact. And this applies whether you're buying, building, or selling. The decision is rarely about finding the perfect house when you're looking in the market and you're a buyer. It's about understanding the trade-offs that affect liquidity, resale, carrying costs, and reputation within a specific micro market. This is the core framework. First, liquidity matters more than price. At higher price points, the buyer pool becomes smaller and it becomes more selective. A home priced at $1.2 million in one neighborhood may sell in days, while a $1.2 million home a mile away can take months to sell. And the difference isn't always quality. So it's liquidity, and liquidity comes from location. It comes from architecture that actually fits inside that neighborhood and makes sense, lot characteristics, and how easily a future buyer can understand the value of that home. So when you build or buy, you're not just purchasing a property, you're purchasing the ease or difficulty of selling it later. Secondly, replacement cost and market value are not the same things. And this is one of the most misunderstood dynamics in the Indianapolis market. It's often possible to spend more building or renovating a home than the market will recognize in value. And that's particularly true in neighborhoods where price ceilings are real and historically consistent. And buyers sometimes assume new construction automatically means stronger value. Sellers sometimes assume renovation dollars are going to translate directly into resale dollars, and neither one of those assumptions reliably holds. The market rewards certain improvements and it quietly ignores others. So understanding that difference requires studying how actual buyers behave in specific neighborhoods, not just how projects look on paper. Third, timing risk is real, even in stable markets. So Indianapolis has historically been a very stable, steady Eddie real estate market. But even in stable markets, that stability can create this sense of predictability, which isn't accurate. So in reality, you're still going to have timing risk. Construction timelines can slip or change. Interest rates are constantly shifting, and inventory changes. That's going to affect the negotiating power that you have. So a decision that can appear really sound on paper today can be very different 12 months later if timing shifts against you. So sophisticated buyers and sellers plan for timing risk instead of assuming that it's not going to affect them. Fourthly, reputation and perception influence value more than what most people realize. At higher price points, buyers aren't just purchasing a structure, they're purchasing identity. They want social signaling and long-term satisfaction with how the decision reflects on them. They want a certain lifestyle and amenities. And this is particularly true in established neighborhoods in Indianapolis where architectural consistency and historical character really matter. So a property that feels aligned with its surroundings is going to hold value better than one that stands apart in ways that might seem impressive at first, but are going to end up being limiting later. So perception isn't superficial in real estate. It is really impacting your long-term outcome. So it is part of value. And this is another non-obvious insight. Here is something that surprises many analytical buyers and sellers. The most financially efficient decision is not always the one that appears most rational on a spreadsheet. In Indianapolis, properties that hold value best are often the ones that feel inevitable to the next buyer. So these are not going to be the unique property. They're not going to be extreme in any way. They're going to be properties that are not optimized towards one specific person's exact taste. I sometimes describe this as the broad appeal paradox. The more narrowly a property reflects one individual owner's preferences, the narrower that resale audience becomes, especially when you get above that $1 million mark. So that's why some meticulously designed homes are going to struggle to sell. While you might have a simpler home in the same price range and it's going to move much quicker, it's easier to understand. So market compatibility often outweighs your individual perfection. If you're considering buying, building, or selling in this price range, there are a few questions worth asking yourself. Not about what you want, but more aligned with the future, about how you think. So, are you making your decisions based primarily on how the home or property is going to feel to you today, or how it's going to perform over the next 10 years? If you needed to sell that home in 3 to 5 years from now, is the next buyer going to be able to step in immediately and understand the value that you're presenting? Or is it going to be a little bit challenging? Are you going to have to explain the value and explain the house? If you have to explain the house, then it's going to be harder to sell. So are your design choices and renovation choices going to be broad enough to appeal to the next owner? Are they tailored so specifically that resale becomes unpredictable? And finally, I'd ask yourself, are you evaluating the decision within the realities of the specific Indianapolis submarket that you are in? Or are you relying on assumptions that you're drawing on from national trends, other cities, or even from the broader Indianapolis market? This is a very specific and niche city. So these are questions that aren't meant to discourage you from taking action. They're meant to sharpen your judgment. Buying, building, or selling a $1 million plus home in Greater Indianapolis, it's not a single decision. It's a sequence of decisions. You're making decisions about risk, timing, liquidity, and long-term positioning. So there's rarely a universally correct answer. And there are only decisions that are more or less aligned with what your goals are and your time horizon and the realities of this specific local market. If you're navigating a decision like this, you're welcome to share your situation in the comments. And many people find it beneficial and helpful to save this framework and return to it as their thinking evolves and as they go through the process and go through their journey towards buying their home. So if you ever need a strategic, specific perspective to look at your property, your neighborhood, that conversation is always available.